Hi folks, you're with Tacitus today at your Pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about the price inflation, cost of living increase, and the issues in and around that. And what sort of got me onto this topic today was we've received some advisories from sort of the local energy company uh, that supplies gas and electricity, that sort of stuff, to certainly the area that we live in. And the advisory, if you read the small print, the advisory says that they're not going to offer fixed price contracts anymore, and you get really a choice of sort of spot price type plans that they've offered. So they've taken away any lock-in contracts, so that they're obligated to deliver energy at a certain price. So that's interesting in itself. But if you read the fine print, it says that they have a right and expect that they will increase energy prices by approximately 50% over the coming 12 months. Now, price rises above a certain level are actually illegal by consumer law. So what they have to do is they have to just do, instead of doing one price rise, they have to do multiple price rises over a period of time in order to comply with the law. Now, technically, they're only allowed to do one price rise in 12 months. So they have to do various sort of legal calisthenics and somersaulting and backflipping to be able to, and various other gymnastics to do with price and so on, in order to get those price rises. Now, there's meant to be a government sort of watchdog that's supposedly is supposed to exist to stop this sort of fleecing of the public, but they seem to be strangely quiet on it. So they've obviously been politically restrained and prevented from doing anything, assuming they even wanted to. Now, so gas is going to, natural gas for cooking and heating, that sort of stuff, that's going to go up by a similar amount to the electricity. So now we're not big electricity users, we're not intensive energy users, and we're the sort of people who, if it's a bit cool, we'll just put on, a warmer jumper or a warmer shirt or something like that. So we're very much into that sort of way of looking at things, and we're fine with that. Now, other people that like to have the climate control system running every day, and that's fine for them, but they're going to pay dearly for that privilege. So just looking at the cost of energy, say we spend, for example, $1,300 a year on energy, this gas and electricity. That includes the heating and the cooking and whatever else. So just suppose we do that. Well, let's put it in round numbers. Say we spend $100 a year on that. We're going to now have to spend about $150 a year to do the cooking and the heating and have the lights on and run the computers and so on. So that's what we can afford that, because we don't start from a big base. That extra $50 isn't particularly relevant to us. I'm not sure we could really reduce the cost of our energy consumption costs, materially, a little bit maybe, but nothing that's going to change anything. Or a few bucks here, a few bucks there, but given the magnitude of the change, then any economy we make isn't going to have the same equalizing or balancing effect. So now the thing about energy in Australia is particularly annoying, because in Australia we have here naturally occurring the highest quality coal that you can get if you're going to go burning coal. Like say in Europe, there's a lot of lignite coal or lower grade quality coals that generate a lot of smoke and a lot of pollution relative to other forms. So you probably remember the smog-filled London, those fogs with the fog smog sort of put together in London in the late mid to late 1800s. That was not only the burning of coal, but the lower quality coals like lignite and that sort of stuff. And you probably recall in Eastern Europe during the communist era, the cheapest, most accessible coal they could get hold of in the local coal mines was that brown coal, lignite coal, which made a lot of pollution. And the East Europeans talk about it. There was this sort of layer of brown dust everywhere. Within 20, 30 miles of the factory, there was just this brown dust everywhere, and it comes from burning this coal. Now in Australia, and even increasingly, that coal was deep below the surface, so it was quite expensive to extract. So you had this piss poor quality coal that was also expensive to get out of the ground. Now in Australia's been blessed with vast reserves of the top quality coal. This is, if there's any coal you want to burn for industry or to generate electricity, then there are certain types of coal that are you would call low emissions coal, and Australia's got abundant resources of that. Not only that, but the coal is dispersed vertically, as in deep in the ground, but it's also vast reserves are horizontal across the earth. So within meters of the surface, you can hit these mother lodes, if you will, of coal, of the black high quality coal. So not only is it abundant, but it's cheap to get it. So in terms of extracting coal, top quality coal out of the ground, Australia has, given the technology of mining here, probably the cheapest extraction of coal per tonne anywhere in the world. This is the state of the situation in Australia. So if you were going to have a very cost-effective and efficient energy system, you would use that coal. And again, Australia has abundant resources of it. So given it's the lowest emission burning coal in the world, then and you've got it in abundance, you can create jobs by the mining. You can create jobs because your cost of energy is so low. You'd be insane not to use it and to base your energy on that coal and for coal-fired power stations and industry generally. But that's not the case in Australia. In fact, Australia is heading in the opposite direction. And now one day the technology for alternative energy that doesn't involve fossil fuels such as coal, one day that technology will exist, I have no doubt. But it's not now, nor is it in the foreseeable future. Nor will it be reliable should it even exist. Or when it exists, rather, it needs to be fully reliable for delivering baseload power on demand. And this is something that alternative energy sources simply do not do. So coming now to the Australian, various Australian governments are stampeding at breakneck speed into all these green new schemes, none of which deliver energy reliably, and all of which are horrendously expensive. Now, there's been this plethora of companies that have suddenly appeared in the last 12 months, particularly the last sort of 6 to 9 months, all in anticipation of a centre-left, very pro-green government that would come to or federal government in Australia, but also the state and regional governments and a lot of the green local councils and things like that. And they're all for this alternative energy thing, regardless of cost. Collateral damage, be damned. We're going green here. So it's this insane ideological crusade, regardless, again, of any collateral damage that the increase in prices may be. Now, I was looking at I was doing some tidying up in the attic and came across documents bits of paper that were kept for I don't know what reason, but an electricity bill from the 1990s. Now, the the rate of increase of in electricity, the price increase, as opposed to the increase in wages, the energy increase has been almost 5 times what the increase in wages has been. That just gives you an idea to how much and nearly all of that is because of the green schemes that they're pushing, which are in fact not green at all. They pretend green. So all these new companies have come up to put green technology, whether it be wind farms and the like, and you go onto the websites of these people, and it's all these black, brown, lesbian, homosexuals. They're completely populated with radical ideological activists, not business people. And given that the government is shoveling taxpayer money at them, throwing it, then they don't need to be business people. They just need to be wild-eyed ideological fanatics that have never had a fucking job in their lives. They're there to implement a new radical social ideology, not to do business or to deliver cost-effective power generation solutions to the public. They're not there to do anything for the public. Now, look at the energy cost is one thing. It's not like Germany, where Germany's got fewer alternatives, or parts of Europe, Denmark or somewhere like that. The alternatives they've got in terms of access to coal and access to oil, they've got to import it or dig it out of the ground in horrendously expensive mining operations. So I can see where they would have a higher, they would have more motivation, and there'd be more impetus to looking at alternative energy when your only other source is to import it, and it's quite expensive to do that. So why not look at alternative energy sources? And I get that, but the alternative energy is very unreliable. Now you're looking at some cases, say in Denmark, where along the Baltic Sea coast, the northern tip of Denmark, where there's winds blowing pretty much all the time, and so wind farms there. Not a bad idea, that's got some merit. It's not reliable in the sense of electricity generation by a coal-fired power station, but it's not a bad stab at an alternative. Very expensive to run though, and this idea that the energy is free because the wind is free, that's bullshit, because the cost of putting those wind farms there, and then the generation lines, the power generation lines and into the grid and so on, that's very expensive to do. So this idea that it's free is just propaganda bullshit. So in Australia, coming back, we're paying big bucks for energy by any world standard. We're paying big bucks for energy, while Australia has at the same time the cleanest burning coal in the world that can be very, very cheaply extracted. Now, India and China are increasing their electricity grids as fast as they fucking can. So, and they're no accident, China's the biggest polluter in the world for various reasons, not just for electricity generation. Well, they use a lot of shitty brown lignite coal as well there. India is also fast catching up to China as a big emitter. And they want to buy a lot of Australian coal. So we've got this absurd situation where Australia is digging its great top quality grade coal out of the ground, but because of the green policies cannot use it domestically, but instead is shipping it off to countries that are the world's biggest polluters. Now, on top of that, Australia has vast reserves of natural gas. Again, the natural gas would be very cheap here if it wasn't for the additional taxes that are placed on it to subsidise or cross-subsidise all these insane green energy schemes, none of which ever seem to work. If you look at all the insane green schemes that have been tried, of which billions of dollars has been thrown at, they've achieved absolutely fuck all in terms of practical delivery of reliable energy of any sort to the Australian citizenry, and yet the government is not only still spending money on it, but is spending more, throwing more and more and more money at these things, none of which have worked thus far. One day they will. One day someone will come up with something, but that could be 20 plus years away. So the real available option is, how can we deliver cheap electricity to our citizenry so that the pensioners can keep their houses warm or cool, or warm in winter, and cool in summer, and that industry has a reliable access to cheap, effective electricity. Why is that not a priority? Why is that not number one on the list? Instead of, we don't care how many old pensioner widows die of cold, and we don't give a fuck about that because we've got an ideological dream. We're going to have green energy because well, we don't know why, because just because. So this is the insanity. Now, if we look at all the price rises and all the inflation that we have in the Western world, and Australia no different, the increased price of food, increased price of sort of rent or buying houses, or increased cost of transport, of petroleum at the gas stations, of electricity, of food, meat, and all of that. None of it is organic or natural. None of it is market forces. Now, if market forces are such, then we just have to live with it, because that's the reality on the ground of how things are. So we have to work around it. But none of this is organic. None of it. Not a single price rise of anything is organic. So when we look at the price rises of say, I don't know, meat, good steak, good quality beef, it's more than doubled in price over the last couple of years. And the price of a lot of dairy products has increased by 40, 50%. In fact, it's difficult to find any food that has not, over the last 12 to 18 months, that has not increased in price by 50% or more. And there's a couple of things like milk's gone up by about 30%, say. So that's not quite 50%, but even so, it's gone up by 30%. Now, if we look at the forces that have pushed these prices up, again, none of it's organic, none of it's natural, none of it's market forces. They're the implementation of all the COVID lockdowns and these strange requirements that every truck driver has to have a COVID vaccination and boosters and this and that and the next thing. When the evidence coming out certainly now is that none of that was legitimately needed. It was all part of a globalist propaganda scare and fear campaign. So this caused artificial shortages in say, transport, or artificial shortages in, say, food preparation places and things like that. Those are not natural, those shortages. Next, so well, it is still market forces because it's a shortage, therefore the price goes up. No, that wasn't it. Multinational companies realised that their revenues would be reduced, hence their profits, by these measures. They therefore adjusted their pricing to make sure that their profits were kept at the same level, even though there were these artificial disruptions, such as the COVID shots for drivers of trucks and the like. Also, if we look at international prices on fuel, again, whatever the energy source, these were artificially restricted by Western government, controlled by the globalist Western government policy, which created artificial shortages, and then that was used to push up particularly the futures contracts and things like that, which again is very globalist controlled anyway. And so you look at any and all of the price rises, the cost of living, rents, for example, or buying houses, property, residential property, that's created by the artificial moving of vast amounts of people into the West, and for allowing offshore, corrupt Chinese and whatever buying syndicates to buy up thousands upon thousands of properties across the West. Australia's not that big a market, and population's only 26 million. So if you get a few, mega rich Chinese goons trying to launder their money in Australia, they can buy hundreds upon hundreds, thousands of properties just amongst themselves. That's enough to quite drastically alter the pricing. Also, you get a lot of people coming in, to looking to rent, so that the rents have increased by three times 3 times the increases in wages. So this is where the cost of living is coming from. It's all artificial. It's all manufactured, including blowing up pipelines in the Baltic Sea, for goodness sakes, to cut off Russian gas and artificially push up the price of gas worldwide. So we can see that we're all being manipulated and handled here, and that we're paying much higher prices than we need to because of this. You've been Tacitus today, your pushback channel. Thank you for listening.